Okay, are you guys ready for kind of a long segment maybe on the whole Capitol issue this week?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
I
let's
got
do it.
one too.
That happened pretty much right after our last show, so it's been kind of simmering for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think our last show we taped on a Tuesday, and then it happened on the Wednesday. So
So I mean, there's kind of a lot to unravel here. So like before their the rally or whatever, um, apparently like the Capitol Police had turned down an offer to have like the National Guard on site.
I thought it was Trump. Is the police who did that?
I guess this article made it sound like it was Capitol Police. Like
Okay.
the offer was on the table apparently at some point. So there's that, and like the day before, the FBI, they had an internal memo or whatever. It's like, we're seeing evidence that there's people planning to come to Washington to commit violence and war tomorrow, and so like that didn't go anywhere. So I mean, it seems pretty crazy at that point, even. But so like the day of, Trump's at his rally or whatever, and basically he says, "Yeah, go down there and protest this." And so they go down there, and they're breaking in and stuff. And at some point, the mayor and their police chief, they called the Pentagon and requested help. And basically the Pentagon told them the request had to come from the Capitol Police themselves. So they turned it down at that point,
Oh.
which is kind of crazy. And so finally they get someone from the Capitol Police that puts in a request. And so that goes to the National Guard or a general or whatever. And they're not like on standby or anything. They've been turned down, so they're not prepared. And so at that point, he's kind of like doing weird stuff.
yeah,
But so they're not prepared, and it's like 4 hours after that they finally like show up on site. So it's like it was like a whole mess. Just everything just going up to that. You figure like even if you get like a call that's like a maybe, you're like, oh okay, let's go take care of this. like it
yeah.
seemed like you try to get there.
It does make you wonder what's the behind the scenes story. What was Trump in communication with him saying don't do it? Was the chief of police there maybe sympathetic?
Well, it seems like a fair amount of it is kind of protocol and bureaucracy, and I think like maybe like on the chief police himself, like he just hadn't anticipated it. Like he didn't see them coming down and trying to get in, so he's just like maybe we don't need it. But then like when they were like we need it, everything was so slow to get in motion, like it was too late.
I thought I read somewhere though that there was like quite a bit of social media posts, advertising that there was going to be some sort of
Right, the FBI knew.
yeah.
They had pretty good indication. So yeah, there was all that, and also the police chief. You wouldn't think he knew just because like the next day or next couple days he resigned. So
I don't know. I think there's like a soft spot in the heart of like these authority, like police and other, groups that are like letting these people get away with a lot of stuff.
yeah, I mean you've seen in other like protests and stuff where like BLM was protesting down there, and they did have like National Guards on the steps and stuff, and they were prepared. But I guess maybe just because they're like, well, the president's involved, it's his people, then nothing's going to happen. And then it just got crazy.
I don't know. I have a darker view than that. I just think it's a race thing. Because, like, they beat a cop to death and nothing happened. Like, they still got into the building and they just, leisurely hanging out, like,
Yeah, it seemed very casual.
I mean,
I noticed that they are now starting to round up and arrest some of these guys that
yeah, I heard.
were there. But as far as what their punishment will be, I have no idea. I did see that a lot of them were like stuck in airports because they got put on the no-flies list.
They're crying about it. That's what they
Yeah.
were crying about.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be. Well, the thing is, you're like, well, the president of the United States told me,
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's going to be a mess for those people. But I can't say I don't feel bad for anybody. Like, you see that picture, like the little old lady in there holding the flag, and you're like, well, Grandma, You're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, I doubt
You're taking
she
a
was.
Greyhound now.
Yeah.
And
She was the one who beat that cop to death with her purse.
It's like, he's down. I just gotta rest against this pillar for a minute, and I'll be ready to go again.
She was the muscle. Did you hear about Mike Pence? Like what he was going through that whole time? So
I don't know.
apparently at the rally, like Trump had like really gotten his people supporters like against Mike Pence because he had already said like Pence can reverse all this or whatever. He can keep me as president, and obviously Pence he talked to a bunch of different lawyers actually about that. He was trying to figure out if he could or couldn't, and like some said yeah he could, but most said he couldn't, and the most respected lawyers were saying that he couldn't do that. So after talking to them, he said that he wouldn't reverse the decision to like certify the vote and everything. And then Trump was like, Mike Pence this, Mike Pence that to his crowd, and they were like, kill Mike Pence. They were chanting that.
I
So,
didn't
like,
see that.
yeah, and like they went into the Capitol, and Pence refused to leave. So I'll give him credit for that, even though he's a spineless idiot.
Right.
But he did refuse to leave. He was like, I'm not leaving the Capitol. I'm standing here. But and while he was in there, they said that he was so angry, so shocked and betrayed. I don't know why, but apparently, like while he was holed up in there, Trump was still tweeting like stuff like, oh, go into the building, this and that, or whatever he was saying.
Yeah.
And Pence was like, he's still egging these people on while me and my family are in this Capitol building, and we could come to harm.
Well, I mean, Pence has seen him betray so many people. It's hard to imagine being surprised.
He came back to him again. He's already trying to smooth things over because he doesn't want to make Trump an enemy.
I mean, at this point, who cares? I mean, like, even like the next day, like, Pence did say some stuff against him. Like, even Mitch McConnell was like, you're like, well, if you've broken ties with these two turds.
Yeah. I mean, they used him long enough. Now that he's lost, they don't really.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end. I don't know why anyone would care.
Yeah.
Just dump it and move on.
Yeah.
But so another part of this story, well, we didn't really talk about the people who got arrested, right? Like some of them are like known, like the Cave Bear Man and
Man, Bear, Pig.
Yeah, and the guy with the podium. So they've both been arrested. But like, there was like I saw a tweet. So it's like the guy in the headdress. Like he's in prison and he hasn't eaten for like 5 days because they don't have organic food.
Yeah, I saw that too.
How you gonna dress like a savage? Like a caveman,
and then be like, I don't have my organic greens.
Yeah. I guess cavemen.
Where's my
did
quinoa salad?
Damn.
Maybe he really was a lefty.
Didn't they say he's QAnon? Like,
I mean, I think a
that
lot
guy
of the
was.
people that got in there were.
It's hard to imagine there's that many.
I mean, you could tell there was definitely a large, white supremacy, element there because like they had like the guy wearing like, on Auschwitz shirt and
6 million wasn't enough,
and Confederate flag bearers and just
the thing is, even if I was in a mob and I saw those guys, I'd be like, whoa, you're making this mob look bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, go find your own mob.
How do they feel so comfortable?
You're waving the flag and there's a guy next to you, like, oh shit,
like even
fuck, I don't want this.
if you're a right winger, like you're always trying to portray that, look, we're not racist, we just care about fiscal, policy and this and that. Well, I mean, then those are the first people you'd try to weed out. You'd be like, whoa, you're making us look bad, but they just let them right in.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I saw a Twitter post, and I didn't have time to watch it. I probably should have, but basically it was this guy that I guess used to be a skinhead, and he was talking about how, like, at some point, like, they made a concerted effort to, like, okay, let's grow out our hair and put on uniforms. So, like, there was, like, a contingent of white supremacists who, like, purposely went to law enforcement and things like that, And that's kind of scary if you think about it. And it does make you wonder because look how many,
Well, I feel like there's always going to be an undercurrent.
Probably.
But trying to make some effort to blend in.
Yeah, that's the thing, is they are trying to blend in.
It is a little nicer when the pieces of shit like advertise it out front.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better to see a skinhead and be like, all right, I'm just not going to hang out with this person.
Note to self, I got it.
The other interesting thing I kind of marvel at is, most of this is brought on by social media. But I remember like the day it happened, like we were having a discussion, and I think it was AJ's sister Roman was like, talking about like how can they deny this now, that and you basically said, oh, they'll just they'll be make it look like it was Antifa. It wasn't the QAnon
Right.
people, it was Antifa. And like sure enough, this is how efficient social media is I've talked on the show that I have a cousin on Facebook who's a real Trumpster and kind of a QAnon guy, and he posts all this shit. And sure enough, that same night he posted this thing, and it showed like this guy with a tattoo, and they're like, look at the tattoo, it's Antifa did this. And so it's like you called it like easily, and that same night, I mean, it was there, so it's kind of impressive how fast the turnaround spin room that social media is.
Yeah. I mean, what's amazing about it is the people who actually stormed the Capitol, they're proud about it. They're like showing it off and sharing it. So I don't know how you can, I mean, you have to be willingly deceiving yourself to buy into that narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the people went in there with their masks up and like all that stuff were much smarter because it's coming down on everybody.
Yeah.
So
I really hope they get charged with a murder, man. Because, I mean, like, I know everybody.
well, I mean, I think that there was one guy I think they have in custody who is like one of their top suspects. Wasn't that the guy who put his feet on Pelosi's desk? I think
He's the one who.
I thought
might
he
have
have been part of the.
Wow, that guy really
has.
has some nerve then.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't get into that kind of detail.
I could be wrong. I know they were looking for specific.
I know they arrested that guy because I saw his
Yeah,
mugshot.
he definitely got arrested. That guy.
But I mean, basically anybody that they catch on tape there, and it's a lot of them. I
Yeah,
think they
they're
should
gonna be arrested.
hunt them down and arrest them.
I mean, Trump may very well pardon all of them here in a couple days. But,
oh, wouldn't that be great?
oh, what did they vote on impeachment today?
They were supposed to vote on an impeachment. I don't know what happened with that.
I didn't look it up either.
Yeah, I've been working all day, so I'm not sure.
So even before this, like Twitter had been like putting little disclaimers on Trump's tweets and stuff, and then they finally just like locked up his account. But even before that, there's pretty strong evidence they've been like shadow banning mostly Republicans, right? So it's kind of like a weird area, but I don't know. It feels a little sketchy. Just I don't know. Part of me is like they're a private company; they can do what they want. Like I'm okay with that, and I'm just like if they're creating market problems, like someone will come fill that slot. But like Parler was kind of filling that, notoriously so. But like they all got together like on the same day, and they were on Amazon servers, so Amazon dropped Parler.
Yeah.
And then like Google, iPhone, like they all, took it like all at the same time, and it's, like I said,
I'm glad you're bringing this up. This was one of my potential topics, so it's good.
I mean, they're companies, and I do believe they should have the freedom kind of do what they want, but like, there's kind of an open door there for Parler because they had they were affecting these people and they were affecting their voice. And so this app pops up and they're on Amazon and they're paying Amazon for their services, AWS or whatever, Amazon services. And then, Amazon's like, oh, you're breaching our contract, and dumps them. And so, I mean, it kind of, it's just kind of sketchy, I guess.
I'm all for it. Like,
I mean, something else will come and fill the space. I know it will, but I mean, just as like a proponent of free speech, I just feel like, maybe, just let people, because there's a million fucking crazy people on Twitter anyway, and probably saying all kinds of crazy shit in every fucking venue. But I don't know. I understand it. It feels a little greasy.
I think with authority figures, like, congressmen and people like that, they should definitely be held more accountable. If it's just like Republicans who are just, voters and stuff and they're saying stuff, I think that's fine. I think the companies have every right to do whatever they want to do, but those people aren't really affecting what's going on. It's the lawmakers who have that reach and have the ability to like form these mobs and, get people to attack. They're the ones who I think need to be held to a higher standard. And I think there are laws that say that they can't say certain things, like they can't incite this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think there's not very many. There's things like you can't say I'm going to murder the president, I think, but I don't think there's too many infractions on what you're supposed to be allowed to say publicly.
And I mean, in my short lifetime, I've seen people do a lot with freedom of speech. Like, I'm not saying that we should curb it or anything, but I mean, it is a complicated amendment. Like, having people be able to control large crowds and control a narrative and say stuff that just isn't the truth and like
but I mean, if you look
50%
at
of the population.
Well, that's exactly what you're getting though, because if Twitter and Facebook control most of the interactions between people and they just shut them off one day, you've effectively silenced a group of people. And if you're going to do that, what's going to stop you from silencing a different group of people or whatever turns it tracks tomorrow?
No, I think there's a fine line. It's a tough one right there. I definitely don't like these extremists like having a platform. That's the one thing.
Yeah, this is definitely a complicated issue for me because I am a big advocate of free speech. But like you said, like these are, at the end of the day, they are private companies and I guess should be able to make decisions like this. But I also think they need a clear standard of what gets you kicked off and what doesn't. Because, I was watching a video about this the other day and it's like a lot of people are cheering that Donald Trump got taken off and, that's Twitter's choice and maybe it was a good one. But like, I think like, the Saudi prince and like, there's like ruthless dictators that are still on Twitter. There's people that are probably objectively worse than Trump in a lot of ways that are on Twitter. And so like, to an extent, it's like, what's the standard here?
Yeah, but they're not invested in that. But I mean, like, there's a lot of people on Twitter and the board and stuff that, donate to the Democratic Party. They're vested, in the Democratic Party.
And also I think like the Saudi prince, like, I don't know if he's using Twitter as a tool to like, drive people to do certain things. Like we've seen that and it's already been done here. I don't know if the Saudi prince is like, hey, go do this, to people. So that might be a difference.
But I mean, Twitter is also on like Amazon services. And so when Parler got kicked off, they filed an antitrust suit. But I mean, there's probably not like an actual agreement between Amazon and Twitter to do that. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, morally, a bit questionable to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll always be places for those, if nothing else, they can have a website. They're going to find a place. I mean, I've never viewed like 4chan and 8chan, places like that, but from what I understand, there's some pretty out there like racist shit on those websites.
Oh yeah, I heard about it.
But apparently if you want to do an app-based thing, Google and Apple and Amazon, they can cut you off. That's what they, I guess, did to Parler.
I mean, it kind of raises questions about how much you want to use their services, at least, depending what you're doing. But
now, didn't you also say that like Ron Paul got like kicked off of Facebook or something?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to throw that in there. So on January 11th, basically Ron Paul, I think I want to say every week or so, he does like a video, like blog or something like that. But he has the Liberty Report. So on the 11th, he put out this report and he posted it on Facebook, which he always does, like a link to it or whatever. And so basically he was voicing these same concerns we're talking about Twitter and some of these taking people out. And it's like kind of the same thing with him where he kind of feels like, their company, they have their rights, but as a proponent of free speech and stuff, he feels like it's not particularly great. But he talks about, corporations getting partnerships with the government and kind of how that's kind of sketchy and stuff. So he posts that. He's not like inciting violence. I mean, he's like this old like grandpa who believes in liberty, basically. And like I think it was the same day Facebook blocked his account, so he can't go in there and use it. And I don't know. It just seems like way too extreme. And basically all he did was question like, Facebook and Twitter and Amazon for doing these things. And like it was instantaneously he was shut down.
Well, this is another reason I think is why these platforms need clear standards of what can get you kicked off. Because like they should, if they do that to him, they should say like, hey, this is what you said in this video. This here is how it clearly violates our user agreement or whatever. And also, I think most of these platforms, and I think a lot of them do, where like they don't kick you off permanently right away. They like give you some sort of slap on the wrist, maybe.
I'm guessing he's not shut down permanently because you can still view his page, but he can't edit it right now.
Oh, so it's just kind of
it's a block. But they cited block. Like multiple infractions of their standards or whatever. But like they don't point to any tweet. They don't say anything. There's no guidance. There's no whatever. It's just like a blanket statement that's bullshit.
Now, let me ask you this, because I watched a video with a guy talking about this, and like to an extent it makes sense, but to an extent it doesn't. And this is something, ironically, that I think most Republicans, libertarians would say hell no to. But he basically says that these new platforms are kind of like the new town hall, and he thinks the First Amendment should basically be extended to them, so that like the only way you're in violation of these platforms is if the same way you would be in violation of the First Amendment, like if you make a direct threat towards someone's person, basically. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know. I'm in a dark spot. Yeah, I kind of think that they should be left to be free, but at the same time, they're making tons of, government donations, and they're doing things to affect elections and stuff. So, I don't know. It's a sketchy area.
You kind of mentioned it earlier, but I think also one of the more dubious things that I think a lot of these platforms have denied, but a lot of people, there's a lot of evidence that suggests it's true, is the shadow banning.
I think there's probably pretty strong evidence for Twitter.
Yeah, because that really is, in my opinion.
What is shadow banning?
So they basically, they don't officially shut you down, but they like, they kind of shut you down in the dark.
They basically change the algorithm so that you're not
being seen.
So you're not being suggested to new people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they don't like, directly like kick you off. They just make it so you're going to be getting a lot less followers.
So moving past that, we've got Biden's inauguration coming. So the question is about violence, and there's obviously going to be probably a lot of security in place. But we were talking earlier about like people going undercover, and there's like apparently a lot of people who are saying they're like Proud Boys are going to dress like Biden fans or whatever. They're going to have hats, T-shirts, whatever, and they're going to go in there and be violent. So what do you guys think about that?
Violence, man. I mean, like, people should know by now, like, unless you're like a country with an overwhelming military force, violence is not really going to get you out of the situation, not going to help you.
Well, I mean, it didn't take much to get into the Capitol.
Yeah, but what did that accomplish? It just made them look bad.
I mean, at the end of the day, if politicians are scared, you have some leverage. That's terrorism. That's the whole purpose of terrorism.
But will politicians be afraid of Proud Boys, like, just because they showed up at the Capitol and beat up some people or something? No.
I mean, it depends how far you want to go.
I mean, so if the
apparently they were scared while they were there.
I mean, it's a good thing if they're intimidated, because like then they'll crack down. Maybe maybe they'll say, "Hey, look, they're coming this far. They're reaching out to us here in Washington. We should do something about this."
I mean, they might put more regulations and sanctions and crap in place, and they might have more security on site.
Yeah, here's the thing. I have no doubt that there'll be some protesters and these people at the inauguration. but it won't be like the Capitol because the new president's going to be there. So I think first of all you'll see a lot larger show of force. You'll probably see a lot of military people right on the grounds there, and I don't think these people are gonna, actually pick a fight with the military. I think they got away with what they did at the Capitol because they could see that the Capitol wasn't, restricting them the way they should have. But so yeah, there'll definitely be some idiots that show up there. And then, to be honest, I think a lot of these people, after they see what happened to these idiots that did raid the Capitol, that's probably a deterrent too. They're like, oh shit, I don't want to be on the no-fly list and all this shit. So I don't expect anything really radical to happen at the inauguration because of these measures I'm sure they'll take. But yeah, there'll be some idiots there for sure.
I mean, honestly, this is going to sound bad, but if the Proud Boys tried to commit like some sort of assassination attempt, that would be good for liberals. Because like then they would actually crack down on these people. They would say, hey, they're on the terrorist list. We need to go after them. We need to just like completely dissolve the organization. I mean, that might be a good thing if they actually try something bold.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do kind of wonder what the long-term ramifications will be from like the Capitol thing. Like, because you always wonder, like, are kids that are like, let's say teenagers that saw all this unfold last week, do you think this makes them like roll their eyes that there's these idiots out there doing this? Or do you think it makes them go, is there something to this QAnon stuff? Like, that's the thing I wonder is like, will the next generation like learn like from the mistakes that are going on with social media right now and be more savvy to it?
I mean, are people our age intelligent right now?
I mean, you can argue that there's a lot of...
Let's say the average. What percentage?
It's a good question because I think like the percentage of people that are like buy into the QAnon stuff is a lot higher than you'd want it to be.
I mean, just like poor beliefs in general. Like we all have like a million beliefs and we all have like a million blind spots. But most people don't even attempt to be educated about anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, I try sometimes, but like I still.
That's the thing, though. You try, and there's a lot of people that don't. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a very subjective thing, because like I've met people that would definitely qualify as rednecks, but I wouldn't call them stupid by any means, But
no. I mean, I think Christianity is stupid, but I don't think all Christians are stupid.
Yeah,
but I do think that they have. A problem in their belief system.
Alex Jones even called out QAnon. He was like, I'm not going to listen to these people ever. I never did. I don't trust them, blah, 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 this and that. So he went off. And Alex Jones believes in lizard people.
He never found a conspiracy he didn't like.
But didn't he recently go off about how the election was fraudulent and all that kind of bullshit too?
Oh, did he?
I don't listen
makes
to him.
sense.
I think he did.
I think I should listen to him just because I enjoy it a lot. But I
don't want to give him the money. That's the only thing. I think he'd be hilarious too.
Well, you have to pay for his podcast?
I don't know about that. I just don't want to support him in any way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, this actually is a good topic of conversation. I think it's it's probably something people are tired of hearing about, but I think it is, these are, pretty critical issues and are, things that are going to keep popping up, especially, how social media is affecting people and all that kind of stuff.
You know what I think is also a big part of it, like for both sides, because both sides have had like rioting and violence and just the craziness. I think it's just that so many people are out of work and they're just like rambunctious. They're like, if I can't work, I'm just going to go fucking do something crazy. Might as well go to the Capitol and stir some shit. I don't fucking know.
All right.
I really wonder if everybody was working, if it'd be like a lot calmer in this country right now.
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. The class situation is pretty bad too.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, I don't think the rioting in Portland would have been nearly as bad if everybody was still working. It's like everybody's just sitting at home getting cabin fever. It's like,
Yeah, I think cabin fever had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
I definitely think that. I think the virus probably had more to do with it than anything. Just because people were all cooped up and had to get it all out.
Had to get it out of their system.
But you would have thought the fear of the virus would have kept more people in, but no, they went and protested a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, to the point of being ridiculous. Is like, this is basically one of the things you shouldn't be doing right now.
Yeah.
I know, but so after when Trump won the Biden won the presidency, when people were celebrating, I definitely understood that feeling.
Well, the thing in Portland is like right when that happened, the weather got shitty and just like all the protests died, and I was like, oh, thank God. I was so sick of that shit. It's just like months of just fucking protests every day. I don't know.
Well, either of you guys got anything more on this subject, or do you want to move on?
I don't have a ton. You can move on to something else, but
I got something on this subject.
on this one,
Yeah. So this is about Josh Hawley. He's one of the congressmen over there who incited the violence. After helping incite Capitol mob, Josh Hawley says
he's the one that went in with the group.
he was standing at the Capitol and like raised his fist, and they all like it kind of signaled them to like rush the
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw that.
After helping incite Capitol mob, Josh Hawley says he's the victim. 5 people died in an attack on the Capitol last week, one of the worst crises the U.S. government has ever faced. But Senator Josh Hawley, a Republican from Missouri who helped incite the riot, believes he's the real victim. In an interview with Fox News on Monday night, Hawley didn't even mention the violence at the Capitol. Instead, he whined about publisher Simon & Schuster canceling his book deal. They don't like the exercise of free speech, Hawley said, adding that his starring role as the lead objector to the presidential election merely reprised Democratic objections to the elections in prior years.
That probably would have raised sales.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, you know, it's the same thing. If they're a private company, they don't want to support them, that's fine.
Yeah, see if someone else will pick it up.
Yeah. A key difference, though, is that when Democrats objected to certifying election results, they didn't do so with full backing of the losing candidate while also fomenting a crowd of supporters angling for violence. The threat was so obvious that Capitol Police told lawmakers to use underground tunnels to get from their offices to the Capitol buildings. Hawley instead opted to make a grand entrance from the Capitol Plaza and raise his fist to the crowd, members of which soon stormed the Capitol, ransacked offices, and killed a police officer. They did it all to thwart the certification of the election that President Donald Trump, Hawley, and others dishonestly claimed was tainted by fraud. Simon & Schuster saw what happened and canceled Hawley's forthcoming book about the tyranny of big tech companies. As a publisher, it will always be our mission to amplify a variety of voices and viewpoints. At the same time, we take seriously our larger public responsibility as citizens and cannot support Senator Hawley after his role in what became a dangerous threat to our democracy and freedom, the publisher said. Hawley still voted to throw out the election results even after having to hide in a secure room while the mob trashed the Capitol. He has denounced violence but has only used the word mob to describe Simon & Schuster. In his Fox News interview, he pretended to be the victim of an assault on the First Amendment, even as diehard Trump supporters continue to threaten and physically attack reporters for just doing their jobs. I think it shows we are in a period where the First Amendment values and principles of freedom of speech and also freedom of worship, freedom of religion, these things are really under attack by many quarters, he said. The First Amendment to the Constitution says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or the press, but it doesn't say anything about a private company canceling a contract with a public figure who incites mob violence. There's probably no greater threat to constitutional government and the rights it guarantees than a major political party trying to overthrow the results of an election, as Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said before the vote to certify last week. We cannot simply declare ourselves a national board of elections on steroids, McConnell said. The voters, the courts, and the states have all spoken, blah, blah. So, I mean, Josh Hawley is a piece of shit, and I hope some like, what are they called? Those heroes who like don't have the law on their side, but they still like the Punisher, vigilante. I hope some vigilante gets his hands on this guy. He is the biggest piece of trash, and I just really hope somebody does something to him. But yeah, I mean, this guy wants to sell books and make money, and he's a scumbag. I'm glad his shit got canceled.
I'm starting to wonder if Simon & Schuster is owned by Facebook. What did you say? Something against big tech?
Yeah, that's true. He was already against it.
Yeah.
Big tech, and now big tech is shutting all these assholes down.
Yeah, big tech has got their hands on stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Simon & Schuster, I don't want to think of a publishing company having much to do with big tech, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Amazon, a company that big could own anything. But who knows?
But, I mean, that's not why his book deal got canceled. That's part of it, probably. I'm sure, like, if there are tech companies that own Simon & Schuster, if somebody does, then maybe they had thought about that. But, I mean...
Well, I mean, I would think if you're, like, in the middle of a controversy, that's just, like, part of that whole there's no bad publicity thing. Like, you'll see...
If you're a bad person, yeah. If you're a good person with a soul...
But how many big companies give a shit about anything?
Hopefully these companies do. I mean, like, I'm positive about what Amazon and all these companies are, trying to do. Like Washington Post, like they're trying to be more like inclusive in society, and they're trying to. I think morals and values are playing a part in what they're trying to do. I really hope so.
I think you just always wonder about the slippery slope because, like, yeah, right now we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, they take down Trump and a few of these assholes that are stirring people up.
Now, if they could just get the Jews.
No, but the thing is how long before they go, this comedian made a joke and we don't like jokes, we're going to shut him, that's where it gets,
But that's like, that's not the big problem for people like me. Like, if you're brown in this country, if you're black, you're not thinking like, oh, I don't want the government to stop my freedom of speech in 20 years or whatever down the road. You're thinking right now, I don't want to get shot by a cop. I don't want to, get crowd violence incited against me and minorities. Did you hear about that black woman who was in Washington who they asked her before the mob stormed the Capitol, they said, did you vote for Trump? And she was like, hell no, and gave him the finger. They grabbed her, pulled her wig off, maced her, and left her in the street. I mean, and the cops watched it.
I did see something about that.
So, I mean, the bigger concern for me is not freedom of speech right now. It's about living and trying to live like a normal life.
Yeah, I mean, it is a hard subject because there's definitely some assholes out there that really shouldn't have a huge platform like that, but you wonder about, the possible ramifications down the road and how things can get out of hand. But, I mean, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But as far as this Hawley guy, like, I don't wish any violence on the guy, but, his political career should be over. And if he broke the law, he should, be arrested or whatever,
Yeah, I'm fairly certain he resigned.
Oh, did he? Oh, thank God.
Was he from, like, one of the Dakotas or something?
Missouri.
Maybe it's not the same guy I'm thinking of. I don't know.